What's going on, everybody? Cassidine Stirrup here. I am back with the final the Odyssey analysis. We're gonna hop into it. Thank you guys for watching. If you're new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. So, in regards to this video, this will be my ultimate, I'd say, perspective on how I think the Odyssey should have been handled, and this is why the Odyssey deserves better, in my opinion. And I've already kind of initiated my initial thought in my part 1 and part 2 review slash spoiler review of the Odyssey movie by Christopher Nolan. And I believe that this movie should have definitely gotten a trilogy. The epic lineage of the story itself, the length of the journey that Odysseus goes through, I think packing that all in one movie was a major fail and a major mistake, and a spit in the face of the story itself, and just not handling it with the care that it deserved. So I'm going to get into this. This is probably going to be like 40-minute video, 50-minute, or an hour. We'll see what goes down, but I've wrote down a good amount of bulletins and notes. I even wrote ideas with a little bit of help of Mr. ChatGPT as well, and I came up with a certain idea or structure of how it could have went if they did it in a trilogy format and split it into 3 parts. And then that'll be basically like towards the end of the video, where I basically tell you which parts would have been good for part 1, part 2, and then part 3 if they would have done the Odyssey and gave it the trilogy treatment, you know what I'm saying? And Christopher Nolan, he's only done one trilogy in his whole lifespan of being a filmmaker, and it was The Dark Knight, which people deem one of the most greatest, superhero trilogies of all time. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get into this video. So, my basic structured spiel on why the Odyssey deserved a trilogy and why the Odyssey deserved better. And I'm going to say, I must reiterate and make this very clear. Christopher Nolan is one of the greatest filmmakers of modern time. Not one of the greatest of all time, but he's one of the greatest of modern time. This is definitely a decent blemish to his reservoir or his record, to me personally, because I've expected more of Christopher Nolan. It feels like he's not even he doesn't even have the same integrity, same mindset or stature about him that he used to have when he was doing The Dark Knight, Inception, movies of that scale, Prestige, Memento. And I heard that he does live in Hollywood. It seems like the Hollywood bug bit him, and he has been infected with not only the message, not only the the Hollywood lifestyle, whatever have you. He comes off, I'd say, is more cocky as ever when I see him in these interviews. It's like, I know Christopher Nolan has always been who he is, but it just feels like he's slacking a little bit. He's getting kind of full of himself. He's positioning himself in GOAT status of filmmaking, prestigious type of spot, which, arguably so. Some people would believe that he is the greatest of all time. And again, I would say that he is one of the greatest of modern time, but I won't call him the greatest of all time. But it seems like, with this Odyssey movie, that his integrity is not as intact as it used to be. His respect factor is not as the same as it used to be. You would see that being a filmmaker and giving your respect and homage to, Homer, the poet of Greece, who created this, epic tale. It's called, it's from another artist to an artist. An artist will always respect another artist's work, you know what I'm saying? And when you are doing a rendition or adaptation of another artist's work, you want to show it the love and care that it deserves. Just like how you would want someone to do with your artwork, you know what I'm saying? You'd want them, if they were to handle that and do a special rendition or, an epic piece to that, you'd want that to be respected in all aspects. So that's where I come from with that. But going off of what I said, I must give, I gotta give Christopher Nolan his credit for all the great work he has done, catalog-wise, leading up to his latest film, The Odyssey. So Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey has grossed roughly $425 million globally in its first week and a half, driven by a massive domestic opening of $123.5 million and an opening global haul of $264.1 million. And that is, obviously that's, record breaking stuff. It's no denying. The funny thing is, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter how successful this movie is. It's still a spit to the face of the people of Greece. It's still very disrespectful to Homer's work, and it just seems like a vanity project that you could have done with any other piece of literature. You could have made your own original story, but you choose to grab the Odyssey, and this is what you do with it. A story that, again, that when I knew this movie was coming out, I just was like, you know what, let me read up on it, let me listen to some stories on the line and see what it's about. And knowing how important the Odyssey is, being that it inspired, one of the best, it inspired a lot of the greatest stories of all time before its time. That's where a lot of things have extended and it have been, copied from, and gave that idea an aspect from. So it's like, you should not put that type of standard on such an epic and influential type of story. But that's neither here nor there. So the box office breakdown: domestic gross reached an estimated $199 million after its first 7 days in theaters. International gross opened with $139.6 million overseas, setting records for Nolan in 48 countries. You know what I'm saying? This is tracking to be, I think, Nolan's highest grossing film ever so far. So second weekend on track for an $84.5 million in second weekend, marking Christopher Nolan's highest grossing second weekend ever, period. And I gotta give him credit where credit is due for what he accomplished while filming the Odyssey. You know what I'm saying? Which he did an entire feat. He shot this movie entirely in IMAX on a 70 millimeter film, and that's a world's first. You know what I'm saying? This is arguably the biggest filmmaking achievement. First feature film ever shot 100% on IMAX, again with the 70 millimeter cameras. Over 2 million feet of IMAX film were exposed. New, smaller, and quieter IMAX cameras were designed specifically for Nolan's production. Massive 1.43 1 ratio IMAX aspect ratio throughout the movie. Extremely high image resolution and detail. Real locations instead of sound stages. You gotta respect the man. He did the practical. He did that camera work. He brings the technical aspect to it, the practical aspect to it, and he brings the real set. He brings the real locations, no set pieces. Rather than relying on the studio, sets, he went to Morocco, Greece, Scotland, Iceland, and Italy. They were used to portray Homer's world. You betrayed Homer's world, but you did not betray the proper, I'd say, storyline or a proper character portrayal, or proper Homer accuracy in regards to his story, but you did try to portray Homer's world that was told in the story itself. So I guess we could give him that, right? And then Nolan wanted audiences to feel like Odysseus was truly exploring an unknown Bronze Age world. So he did his thing with that. And the practical sailing, instead of CGI ships, he used the full-size ancient ships that were built, and the actors learned rowing, sailing, maritime movement. Real crews became background performers. Months were spent filming in seas. And Nolan described filming almost like making a documentary. It's very magical. It's very dope. When it comes to Nolan, he has that, classic good old filmmaking style. You know what I'm saying? He just rubs some dirt in your eye and get in there, get down to work, and bring your best. That's just what Nolan's, known for. He's known for, his practicality, his vision, and his grounded type of storytelling. So, again, it goes good with something like this, but the way that it was executed and the way that it was all stuffed in one film, and the way that characters were, the way that characters were not accurately depicted and things like that of all sorts. And again, I already spoke on the performances, the controversy about, the right and the ethnicities with Lupita, Elliot Page, and then Zendaya. I've already spoke about that in my part 1 and part 2 review. If you guys want to check that out, you can go ahead, but I'm just going to make main consensus on just everything that he's achieved. yada yada, and then getting on with how I would had hoped that they would have done a trilogy and how it should go if that was to ever be the case. So there was real ocean photography instead of digital oceans. The Mediterranean Sea, North Atlantic, and Icelandic waters. Which again, and that's what I was saying. Like the ocean really popped. There was, the locations, the oceans. I know people have a problem with the color grading, but that's neither here nor there. But I do give him, credit where credit is due. There were, they were photographed for real. The waves, the storms, the sunlight, and the weather are largely authentic. Massive practical effects, man. Following the tradition of The Dark Knight, Dunkirk, Tenet, and Oppenheimer, Nolan preferred building effects physically. Examples like the giant Trojan horse, which some people said was kind of ridiculous because the Trojan horse has always had, wheels on it. But in the movie, you got the people from the people in Troy that they were just pulling it. I'm like, dude, can you imagine how much that must have sucked if they had to? But historically speaking, the Trojan horse always had wheels, so it just kind of looked ridiculous a little bit too in the theater, seeing them pull that big thing and not hearing, not noticing that, there's a bunch of guys in there or feeling at least a different type of emotions inside of the Trojan horse and anything like that. But that's neither here nor there. But the giant Trojan horse, the practical ships, the real destruction, large scale stunt work, practical environmental effects they were basically all real. CGI was used only when absolutely necessary. In the giant Trojan horse, one of the largest practical props Nolan has ever built, it was approximately 35 feet tall, around 8,000 pounds, dragged across beaches by hundreds of extras. Instead of being mostly digital, it physically existed on set. There were thousands of extras instead of relying on digital crowd multiplication. They had people standing for armies, sailors, palace servants, and warriors. They were portrayed with real performers whenever possible. The firelight cinematography for Troy's destruction instead of conventional movie lighting. They used Hoyte van Hoytema created custom LED systems. The pyrohydrons that realistically simulated firelight over enormous areas while preserving the natural look of the flames on IMAX film. That's why I said the movie is nothing short of not visually cool and great to look at. That's mainly the biggest giveaway from the positive in the movie in regards to what I could say as well. The in-camera photography that Nolan constantly asks for. Can we photograph this for real? He always wants to make it feel as real as possible. He wants the audience to be immersed as much as possible, and for it to just be just very authentic as possible. It just blows me away how Christopher Nolan always brings it and always wants to make sure that things feel real as possible. They look real as possible with this film, but again with the storytelling and again with the casting, that was the only non-realistic type of thing that he didn't decide to go with this film, which is very strange to me. You know what I'm saying? Because again, it feels like Christopher Nolan of the old with more integrity, more respect in the art of what another artiste, presented, and that he would respect that. It's just respecting the art of another artist, but I guess not with this project here. So the goal was to capture as much as possible in camera before adding any digital effects. So it was very, very selective CGI was used in this movie. Very selective CGI was used, so I give him that as well. Unlike some blockbuster, CGI was reserved for elements that could not be achieved practically, such as certain mythological creatures. Obviously, the creatures were mainly the only things that were, I would say, the Cyclops, and then the sea creature by the whirlpool. I forgot the name. I think it was Silas or something like that. But those were when you can tell when that CGI is being used, and then for the rest of the movie, you're like, man, that's the only time the CGI was used. Everything else is practical. Everything is real. So I gotta give him respect into that. And Nolan has said his philosophy is to shoot as much as possible in camera to preserve image quality and realism. You have nonlinear storytelling. That's a signature Nolan hallmark. Rather than telling Homer's story strictly chronologically, He really gave flashbacks, parallel timelines, memory, psychological structure. This movie is very psychological. And after, really thinking and pondering on it, I think that's where Nolan came through with that idea of making it as psychological, realistic, and grounded as possible, while also it existing in a mythological world. And I think that's where I drew the line there, because when you want to tell, if you want a mythological epic to really reach its peak, it has to stay in that fantastical lane. You know what I'm saying? It's just, that's what gives it its gravitas. You just take everything special out of it. If you're not showing me Zeus, Poseidon, Helios, Hermes, you're not, the ethereal aura around the gods. Athena had no godly aura around her. You know what I'm saying? Cersei didn't have a evil type of presence. You felt the evil presence with Cersei in the movie, but you couldn't feel. I wish they could have physically shown. Make the gods look. Have them. They should. The gods should look. I would say the gods should look humanistic in form, but feel totally overwhelming at the same time. They should, in that human form, you should tell, all right, that's a god. You're not talking to a regular human being. You know what I'm saying? They should have that special presence, that ethereal feeling, and you didn't get that. And so that was kind of a very big miss for me. It's like, if you see a god present themselves in human form, you should also still be able to sense the presence and kind of physically see that they're on a different level, or that they are of not this world. They're projecting a different energy in our humanistic realm. That's what I was hoping to see. Just like how it's always been with, Greek mythological, lore, when gods are in human form, or when they come to visit humans and everything like that. I know they're transformed into, they mainly come in disguise, but it's like you can always feel that aura or see it. And you would know that, all right, I'm talking to a god here. So the psychological structure it was used to mirror Odysseus's recollection and emotional journey. Again, that's how he had to structure it, because he had to fit the whole epic tale of Homer's Odyssey into one film, which again is just its biggest mistake to me, really. Ludwig Göransson's epic score. It was the score when Ludwig's score really hit is when they were showing the full takeover of Troy, the fall of Troy. Towards the end, you know what I'm saying, you see them bust out of the Trojan horse, you see the war going on, and you see, you just hear that score. That's when the score really hit for me. But mainly throughout the whole movie, though, besides that part, the score was kind of just, again, it was monotone. It was just a few drums here and there. It had a little bit of hip-hop bass a little bit to it. So that was the only time I was very accepting of the score that Ludwig gave us. Other than that, I felt like it could have been way better. And in accordance to, again, I'm going to say this, like the Gladiator score. Now we are free, the like something like that, bro. That would have really tugged on the heartstrings, bro. That really sounds like mythological. That sounds, Greek. That sounds powerful. It sounds traditional, you know what I'm saying? But again, I get it. This movie is not made for traditional purposes. It's made for modern audience purposes. And again, that was fairly known enormously in this film. Yes, and it featured, the score featured large orchestra, choir, ethnic instruments, percussions, emotional themes, heroic motifs. But the music shifts between intimate family moments and grand mythological spectacle. So again, it wasn't a bad score package that Ludwig gave us. I just really felt like, dang, bro, again, it's not like when you're talking about like memorable scores that this movie should have deserved. This score should be on the level of the Lord of the Rings. Like, bro, it's like when you hear that score, you're like, oh freak, like, yo, this is epic, bro. We're on an adventure. We are on an adventure, dude. Like this is top notch stuff. Nothing against what Ludwig gave us, but that's just how I felt about the score personally. Again, the height of the score was again when the fall of Troy was being shown. You know what I'm saying? That's when I was really like, all right, this is the best part out of the whole movie in regards to score wise of what was being played. In the large format close ups, Nolan used the IMAX not only for landscapes but also for faces as well. The huge film format emphasizes emotion, subtle expressions, and character psychology. This approach grew from what Nolan admired about IMAX while making Oppenheimer. And the grounded combat. Yo, honestly, at this point, bro, someone needs to help like Nolan really with the combat style of his movies. You know what I'm saying? That was a lot of people's gripes as well when it came to the Dark Knight trilogy as well. Is it seemed like the fighting was very messy. A lot of either you had your shaky cam. There was a lot of shaky cam in here, dude. Like it's just a lot. It's like this, like you know what I'm saying. And when people are fighting with swords, it's like, can you just keep a still shot so I can see them going at it with the sword, the technique, and the style, and see the blood spill? There wasn't a lot of blood in a mytho. This is a mythological rated R movie. I want to see blood spilling, and you didn't see much blood in here, so I'm kind of like, and then again, it's just, bro. I'm telling you right now, Christopher Nolan, moving forward, bro, you need to have a fighting, team, a fighting choreography team. You need to have a real fighting choreographer produce these fighting scenes. You just need to step away from those, and all the fight scenes that you have, let a fight choreographer or a fight production team take over it for sure, and do it justice. Because again, the fight, it's not unbearable, but it's just like, dude, like, come on. It could have been extremely way better. You could have nice one long shots, you know what I'm saying? You could have had just, nice one-on-one battles. When you see Agamon, or I think I said his name correct, Agamon, Mr. Batman, coming through, the king, he just comes through and he's just like, they're saying he's aura farming in his ridiculous looking Batman outfit. That is not historically accurate whatsoever for Greek armor. You know what I'm saying? It's like in that time. So again, mind you, it's just next time I would say that Christopher Nolan, he definitely needs he needs to have a choreographer ASAP, bro, when it comes to his fighting scenes, because he's just not. That's his weak spots. He is not good with fight scenes. He's not good with combat. None of that, dude. He's just really not. The battle scenes, I know they were emphasized for weight, exhaustion, physicality, and realism. And again, there goes that word. When you think of Christopher Nolan, you got to think about grounded. You got to think about realistic. But when it comes to grounded and realistic for a mythological movie, it just makes it a it just dude, it's an oxymoron. It's just so contrary to what it should be. It's working against itself, because that is not how you'd want a mythological epic to feel. You want it to feel larger than life. You want it to be past the realm of realism, because it's mythological. We're talking about gods here. So when you're doing that, it's just like, again, I'm going to keep saying this. To me, this just isn't, I believe this isn't Christopher Nolan's cup of tea, and he was just the wrong person for the job in regards to this film. And again, this epic tale of Homer should have obviously gotten a trilogy, but I'm going to get to that very soon. So rather than exaggerated superhero style choreography, he just went for realism. So I'm like, okay. The natural lighting, whenever possible, scenes uses the sunrise, the sunset, overcast skies, practical firelight, which those parts they look very great in accordance to what it was. So instead of heavy artificial lighting, he got the best shots possible when it came to real sunrises, sunsets, real sky shots, and practical firelight. You know what I'm saying? Even monumental wide shots for large IMAX compositions to showcase the cliffs, the coastlines, islands, the mountains, the oceans, and the ancient architecture. So to convey the epic scale of Odysseus' journey in general. That's what he deemed that was good, and historical production design as well. So with the historical production design, the production drew on archaeological research for ships, weapons, architecture, Bronze Age environments. It's kind of funny because, again, a lot of things were very inaccurate in this movie. So when he's saying these things and when he's displaying that this is what they went for, I'm like, well, buddy, I don't know what movie I was watching, because a lot of that did not seem, as researched enough as possible to give us the most accurate ship's weapons. Because a lot of people even said the ship looked like Viking ships. The armor did not. The armor looked paper mache. Armor didn't look like it was, Greek armor whatsoever. And, so while also making the creative choices for the cinematic storytelling, there was needing to be practical atmosphere. So instead of adding environmental effects digitally, the production used practical. Again, the smoke, the mist, the dust, the rain, the ocean spray, fire, embers. It was to give the scenes tangible texture. And that's what I'm saying, man. That is basically the best thing. Excuse me. That is the best thing about this film for sure, man. It's just the visual storytelling. And people keep saying the performances, dude. I said this in my part 1 and part 2 review. The performances were mediocre to mid to just run of the mill. The only performances that were very acceptable and very overtaking of the screen and demanding, our attention was Anne Hathaway as Penelope, and John Leguizamo, or John Leguizamo, if that's his name, I guess, when he played, the old blind, storyteller in regards to just in the movie. Like, it's just that John Leguizamo, he kind of just looked kind of ridiculous, and wearing the wig and just look. It's like, dude, because that's the first time I've ever seen him do anything like this. So it just takes you out of it took me out of the experience, in my opinion. Just seeing John looking like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wanted to laugh, like, legit. Even though he acted his ass off, he did. Him and Anne Hathaway, again, they gave the best performances. It's like they looked like they were the ones trying the most. And then you had Matt Damon, who, again, was playing Matt Damon in my regards. He didn't really give me vibes of Odysseus, but he didn't do terrible. It's just I felt like everybody could have done a way better job. The only performances in here that I'll remember is Anne Hathaway's performance and John Leguizamo's performance. And then you got the psychological focus. But the editor, Jennifer Lamb, continues the rapid cutting style scene from that was taken from Oppenheimer, especially during intense dialogue and action sequences, while quieter scenes were allowed more room to breathe. So you could tell the editing and the storytelling from flashback. It just kind of felt like things were all over the pace, and the pacing was just trying to really engorge and have us digest this whole 10-year epic. Like I said, and that I feel like that was really working against the film. It truly was working against the film. I don't know why they settled to make this into one film, when obviously this should have definitely been, if you didn't want to do a trilogy, at least give us a two-parter, bro. Like, I just don't, I don't get it. I truly don't get it. It's like you're only gonna make more money. So in my eyes, and I'm gonna get to that, because if you did this properly with a proper trilogy, which it should be a trilogy, you could have made billions instead of making $1 billion. You get to turn this $1 billion, because I can see this movie possibly making close to $1 billion or $1 billion. But if you gave it the trilogy treatment, you could have easily gotten $3 billion out of the pot if you just gave this the trilogy treatment. That's more money in y'all pocket, which makes me feels like that this movie was only done as an initiation or vanity project in regards to what Christopher Nolan wanted, or what Universal Studios wanted him to do with this property, So that's just how I feel about it. But through the visual storytelling and performance, with the psychological focus, rather than presenting Odysseus only as a mythic hero, Nolan wanted to emphasize on the trauma after war, the guilt, the perseverance, family, memory, and identity through visual storytelling and performance. So a lot of people did not like that portrayal of what he was doing with Odysseus. They're saying Odysseus isn't this, he's not this sad, cold, just robotic type of person. He very much has a personality to him. He could be a little jokey here and there. He could, be heroic when needs to be. And he's just, people really felt like that Matt Damon truly did not feel like Odysseus in regards to the story. So, be that as it may, I can definitely see from reading Odysseus, from looking through Odysseus, reading through the audiobook and listening to the stories online and doing research, he just definitely was a different version of the character. But he was not a 100% accurate depiction of Odysseus whatsoever. So through the visual storytelling and performance, Nolan's signature filmmaking philosophy on display. So across Odyssey, Nolan's filmmaking is defined by the entirely IMAX 70mm photography, the extensive real-world location shooting, the practical ships and ocean filming, so practical effects, the in-camera effects whenever possible to make it bring that realistic style to the movie, the monumental physical set pieces like the Trojan horse. I even heard that the Polyphemus, when he had to use a practical giant, I would say a practical giant statue or prosthetic piece that he needed to use with doing, Polyphemus, as when he was shooting the scene with the Cyclops. So he was really trying to do his practical, realistic thing, and I got to give it to him. And then also the 70mm IMAX. This is shot purely at IMAX. He really, I feel like this was very much an experimental, accomplishing achievement type of project that he focused more solely on instead of focusing on accuracy, proper story, I would say story accuracy, and then proper story etiquette that he could have done with handling Homer's epic tale, as well as not focusing this in one film, but giving it the proper treatment of giving it multiple films. But the naturalistic lighting and environments and all the non-linear storytelling, his regular storytelling just of what Nolan likes to do, a sweeping orchestral score, grounded action and combat, and a strong emphasis on emotional realism alongside mythic spectacle. Together, those are the techniques that make the Odyssey one of Nolan's most technical, ambitious, and visually immersive productions to date. And that's why I think the biggest giveaway and takeaway is what main audiences and general audiences are gobbling up. Just the technical, ambitious, and visually immersive, oh, it's epic. Oh, it's epic, you feel me? I'm like, yeah, it's epic, alright. It's epic, but it's a disrespectful epic in my eyes. And this is what I feel about it. And boy, oh boy, I'm getting there, guys. I know I told you guys this is going to be a little long of a length of a video, but I'm getting there, don't worry. So to me, Christopher Nolan basically turned one of the greatest Greek mythology stories of all time into a bland, modernized, inaccurate, lifeless, one-off movie adaptation that was given to us by the legendary Greek poet Homer in regards to his story, where the story was originated, also adding on that no Greek actors or actresses were casted. Somebody in my comment section said that there was one or two Greek people in here, because I think someone did speak Greek once in the movie, but it's very subtle. Very subtle. How can you make the Greek subtle, but make the Americanization so in your face? It's just, I don't understand that. I just don't understand that. I would like to know what made him why did he need to modernize something? Why experiment with perfection? If it's not broken, do not fix it, Jack. If he didn't try to fix it, then again, this could have been the greatest trilogy of all time. If he just sacked up, swallowed his pride and his ego, and gave the proper, accurate depiction that Homer's Odyssey story needed. So in regards to that, where the story was originated, also adding that no Greek actors and actresses were casted for any of the roles, that's thus solidifying the disgusting betrayal of the story in this movie to new heights. while also adding more insult to injury, realizing Greek taxpayers contributed financially through state funding. What they contributed was 6.9 million in subsidies and cash rebates from the Greek government, bro, towards this travesty of a film for their culture, whether fictional or not. It came from them. It came from them, so you need to show them the respect for giving us an epic. And this movie has been historically proven and verified that the story of the Odyssey was, basically inspired so many, Western stories and other stories told around the world. This story is thousands of years old. So why not give it the respect that it deserves? So towards this, that being a travesty of the film, they also skipped Greece on their promotional tour due to backlash over its lack of Greek casting, which is a pretty smart move, if I may say so myself, because I guarantee you, if they went over to Greece, they probably wouldn't make it out alive, because people would be throwing freak rotten tomatoes. The people of Greece would have been throwing tomatoes at those motherfuckers. They would have been dodging and ducking on the red carpet on the promotional tour if they went there. And even then, bro, that is still disrespectful as freak. You promote and you travel in all the other countries, but the country that gave you the freaking story to do the movie. That's despicable. And you skipped Greece for the promotional tour because you know what you did was wrong. Because if you didn't think that it was wrong, or you didn't have that inkling of an idea, y'all would have still went to Greece to add on to the promotion tour, the place where the story came from. But you skipped it. I'm like, bro, it's just the disrespect is real. And it's a lot of these, critics and movie critics and all that stuff are not speaking the truth of the matter of this being one of the most disrespectful movie adaptations in recent memory. It's disgusting. But whatever, dude. So and here's a fun fact. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, which I've heard about this, and this is mainly confirmed, and I want to go ahead and verify and clarify that as much as possible now, that Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey film was based mainly off of the acclaimed 2017 translation by the classicist and scholar Emily Wilson, the first woman to translate the entire epic into English, as a key source of inspiration for his script. So Nolan used Emily Wilson's modern English translation to shape his textual approach. So though the resulting film focuses squarely on Odysseus's perspective, betrayed by Matt Damon, rather than shifting the story to a female character's viewpoint. And here's another fun fact, right? Emily Wilson herself, the acclaimed classicist and scholar who translate the entire epic into English, even she said she felt mixed. She expressed that she was mixed and largely critical views of Christopher Nolan's film adaptation of the Odyssey. She noted that while it was fun to watch with her kids, she said it missed core themes of the epic poem. And she said the key criticisms that she was giving is that the thematic overcrowding. It felt the film tried to pack everything in while losing the essential core themes of Homer's text. Ding ding ding, I said it already, filming, and even Emily Wilson is saying it herself. It was too crowded. They tried to put the whole freaking story, this long epic journey, in one film, and thus losing essential core themes of what Homer's text was giving. And it reduced and she also said the reduced agency for Penelope. And she argued that Penelope's role was minimized to the point where believing in her marriage to Odysseus became impossible. In the modernized psychology, she criticized the depiction of Odysseus, played by Matt Damon, as a traumatized action hero, focused on modern guilt rather than the complex, multifaceted hero of the original Greek text. Exactly. Even Emily Wilson, again, she is stating that in regards to basically him doing a psychological take on a traumatized action hero, versionized, modernized, to display Odysseus, that you lose the multifaceted hero of who he originally was in the Greek text. That's why a lot of people say, yo, Matt Damon is not, that's not Odysseus. Like, who's this guy? Somebody in the comment section said it's just Matt Damon wearing a meat suit of Odysseus. That's what they're saying. Without the Odysseus drip, he doesn't have no Odysseus epic. He has no Odysseus essence, drooling off of his body. It's just not happening. It's if he feels like a totally different character. And it's also missing mythological elements that Emily Wilson pointed out. She says major omissions, such as the complete absence of major gods like Zeus and Poseidon on screen. I said this, bro. Dude, this is coming from Emily Wilson, the person that Christopher Nolan basically crafted his script around her translation of the poem itself, bro, of the epic tale itself. The person that he crafted the script around is even saying that they're disappointed in the absence of the gods, disappointed in the betrayal of Odysseus. She's disappointed in how Penelope felt like just, her only lifeline is her marriage, and that's making it more impossible to believe in their marriage. Just only seeing that version of Penelope, bro. And then also she stated that they just tried to fit too much into one film. So it lost its essential pieces to Homer's text by trying to pack everything all into one film. It's hilarious. Even Emily Wilson herself was not unanimously pleased with Christopher Nolan. And you used her English, you used her English translation to shape your script. And she's not pleased with it, bro. But hey, you're not hearing any of this, you feel me? All you see on social media or the news is Christopher Nolan's his epic, groundbreaking, record-breaking, high scores on Rotten Tomatoes. But they're scraping away all the negative, bro, and only giving spotlight to the positive. And again, I do not wish for Christopher Nolan to fail, but he needs to be held accountable for this travesty of a film that he's given us as his latest project. It needs to be known and it needs to be heard, and he needs to know this, because we expect greatness from him because he's always given us greatness, in my eyes. Some people think his movies suck. Some people don't like the Dark Knight trilogy. They think Oppenheimer is overrated. They think Inception's overrated. There's a lot of people that don't, there's a good amount of people that don't really care for Christopher Nolan's films because they're just boring. They don't like his stale storytelling, his structure, because he kind of has the same structure with a lot of his films. So, hey, man. But I love most of Christopher Nolan's films. But this one right here, again, it's his worst film that he's ever done. Due to, again, inaccuracy, due to modernization, due to the disrespect to Homer's art. From one artist to another artist, there should be mutual respect and respecting each other's work. And that just was not felt in this movie whatsoever. The internal narrative time frame of Homer's The Odyssey spans 10 years of wandering following the 10-year Trojan War. The fact of the matter is, this epic story deserved more than one film. It deserved a trilogy, and I will stand on that wholeheartedly. This deserves the Lord of the Rings treatment, to build up the characters, to build up Odysseus, to build up the conflict in the Council of the Gods, to display all the best mythological and psychological details of the story, to build up the audience investment in the characters. So if I was to see Odysseus' crew getting killed one by one, it would really feel, I would feel it. It would hurt me. I would shed tears, bro. I'm shedding tears out here because we got a trilogy here. I'm growing with these characters from the first movie, the second movie, to the third. So now I'm truly invested. Now I'm crying a river because I've had time and investment with these characters instead of forcefully stuffing them down my throat in one movie to the point to where I don't give a damn about if any of them die. If any of them died, I didn't care. Even the scene with Odysseus finally seeing his dog that he had, bro, before he left. His dog hanging on to see him one last time. His dog sees him and he passes away. You know, if you're an animal lover, that'll probably get you still. But when I watched it, I was like, damn, that's sad. But that should have been an easy tearjerker. And I still didn't cry. I still didn't drop a tear, bro. I think I was more irritated and tired than I was emotional while watching this movie, because I know about the story in itself. I know that Christopher Nolan could have done better. I know that the performances could have been stronger, and I know that this film deserved more than one. That this story deserved more than one film. That's all that was running through my mind watching this movie, dude. So yeah, man. So it deserved a trilogy, and it just to just build up on everything, bro. It blows me away how this adaptation could have easily grossed them $2 to $3 billion if this story got the proper treatment, the proper trilogy treatment that it deserved. Which leads me to believe that Hollywood does not care about making money anymore. Because if they did, that they would have chose the correct route, which was to make the Odyssey a trilogy. So obviously, yes, Hollywood just doesn't care about making money anymore. They chose Christopher Nolan to grab a story, a historical foreign story, to most audiences, and use it as a tool to push propaganda, and a message within Homer's The Odyssey was just used as a pawn to endorse Hollywood's forced objectives in whatever they wanted to display through this movie. So it's funny to say that the Odyssey was a sacrifice for Hollywood's political gods and self-righteous gain. The Odyssey, Homer's Odyssey, was a sacrifice. Exactly. Isn't that poetic? Yeah. So, and here was my pitch in regards to this being a three-parter. You feel me? Part 1, part 2, part 3. Again, I wrote ideas, and I wrote the ideas through the system of ChatGPT. Gave me a few ideas here, and this is what was put together on if this movie was done properly, the director I would have chose, the musical composer that I would have chose, and the part 1, 2, and 3 structure that I would have done if the Odyssey would have been a trilogy. So I put the Odyssey, a live action trilogy event based on the legendary epic tale of Homer, the Odyssey. It would be directed by Peter Jackson or Mel Gibson. I've already said that. Peter Jackson, give it that Lord of the Rings treatment. You got Mel Gibson, Mr. Braveheart himself, Mr. Passion of the Christ himself, you feel me? Keeping things historically accurate and to the T, Mr. Apocalyptic, Mr. Apocalypto himself, you feel me? Like, he's just, he really engages himself in history. He respects it to the T. So it's like either Peter Jackson or Mel Gibson were both winning here. And it's funny that even Elon Musk said he would give Mel Gibson $100 million to do a historical accurate depiction of the Odyssey. I don't know if he's lying or frying. If he's telling the truth, that'd be dope, that'd be epic, that would be groundbreaking and historic. I don't think anything like that has ever happened in filmmaking history. You know, so him being a trillionaire and he wants to give $100 million to Mel Gibson to redo the Odyssey, I'd say go for it. I just don't make it Grok AI slop. That's all that I ask. If Elon Musk is really willing to give Mel Gibson $100 million with a real crew, real effects, you know, real cameras on the scene, real Hollywood production stuff, no AI bullcrap, that would be very interesting to see. But again, back to the slate of what I was thinking of what the Odyssey could be trilogy-wise. It would be directed by Peter Jackson and Mel Gibson. Obviously, it would be composed. The music would be composed by Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer, one of the greatest musical composers, musical score givers of all time. I don't give a freak. He probably is the greatest of all time. Well, I would say one of the greatest. You got Hans Zimmer. You got John Williams, you feel me? You got Michael Giacchino. You know what I mean? You get me? You got Danny Elfman, you know what I'm saying? Composers on deck, bro. Honestly, you can't... It's like, I don't see... People don't understand how important a score is. how important scores are in a film. Scores can take a film from a C to a freaking A minus, you feel me? Or an A, depending on how epic and how memorable that score is. And again, nothing against Ludwig Göransson. The score in here was not terrible, but it just wasn't memorable. You know what I'm saying? Again, the score hit its peak when towards the end of the film, or towards almost the end of the film, where they're in Troy and they're taking it over, and you see Agmon, or if I'm saying his name right, walking out. You know what I'm saying? Looking aura farmed up and everything like that. And again, yes, he did look cool, but it was just weird because, again, it's not accurate armor depiction of what you would see in of Greece, of Greece men in that time. So that was the only thing that was kind of funny to me. But yeah, his armor looked pretty dope, but the blocking of it looked dope, but kind of goofy at certain areas of times. But yeah. But yeah, man. So I would have the music composed by Hans Zimmer, yours truly, Hans Zimmer. For 10 years the world watched kingdoms burn. I'm gonna say this in my Greece, my accent, my Roman accent. You know what I'm saying? So this is how it would go for me to do this three-parter. So for 10 years the world watched kingdoms burn. Now the greatest journey ever told begins. After the fall of Troy, the legendary king Odysseus believes the war is finally over. His only wish is to return home to Ithaca, where his faithful wife Penelope and his son Telemachus have waited for him for nearly 2 decades, but the gods have other plans. When Odysseus defies the will of Poseidon, the sea itself becomes his greatest enemy, unleashing storms, monsters, temptations, and impossible trials that transform a voyage home into the greatest adventure in human history ever told. Damn it, that was so hard I gave myself hiccups. So film 1, it would be The Odyssey, Part 1, The Fall of Troy, Defy the Gods. So the trilogy opens with the final days of the Trojan War, before following Odysseus and his fleet into a world ruled by myth. His journey quickly becomes a nightmare as his crew raids the land of the Ciconians, however it's said in there. I'm trying to get the names right, guys. But his journey would quickly become a nightmare as his crew raids the land of Cicones, before being driven into violent storms. They encounter the mysterious Lotus Eaters. It's funny, they had the Lotus that makes you lose memory and things of that nature, but they had Charlize Theron's Calypso feeding it to him. Again, just not accurate at all towards the story, but again, they got to fit it in there somewhere. So it's one movie, right? So they encounter the mysterious Lotus Eaters, whose enchanted fruit steals all desire to return home. Deep within a mountain lies the terrifying Cyclops, Polyphemus. Yes, or Polyphemus. Or Polyphemus. I'm going to go with Polyphemus here. So, deep within a mountain lies the terrifying Cyclops, Polyphemus, a monstrous giant who traps Odysseus' men inside his cave and devours them one by one. Through brilliance rather than strength, through brain rather than brawn, against a beast so extravagant, so vicious, Odysseus blinds the beast while getting him intoxicated and getting him drunk with wine, and escapes, but his pride proves costly, revealing his true name to the Cyclops. He earns the eternal wrath of Poseidon, father of the Cyclops. As punishment, the oceans themselves become a battlefield. Odysseus receives the winds of the world from Aeolus, only for his own crew to unleash them at the very moment Ithaca is within eyesight. They are cast across the seas to the land of the cannibalistic Laestrygonians, where nearly the entire Greek fleet is annihilated. And again, I'll give you this: seeing that Christopher Nolan used real 7-footers or beyond 7 feet people to do that scene, and had to cast, you know, a woman to be Odysseus, to be Matt Damon, to make, you know, the giants, like, you know, the 7-footers look more bigger as well. It's very clever, very smart. But it's just the way that that scene was executed with the Lestragonians, and seeing the little girl just, you know, crying, you know, yelling, crying, and just seeing them pull up out of nowhere, just fully suited, just ready to kill and take over and everything. It's just the execution of that part. It looked cool, but the execution was so goofy. It just took me out. I'm like, what, huh? Like, again, so much going on, so much to pack in one movie, so little time. So things are just happening. Not much dialogue in that part, but things are just happening. So the cannibalistic Lestragonians where nearly the entire Greek fleet is annihilated, the surviving warriors arrive on the enchanted island of Circe, whose magic transforms men into beasts through divine intervention. Odysseus resists her spell and forces the immortal sorceress into an uneasy alliance. There he learns that his journey home requires something no living hero has ever attempted. He must travel into the land of the dead. And that would be the first chapter. So it would end with Odysseus sailing into the darkness itself. Part 1 closes out. So part 1, I would have had it to be about, you know, Odysseus, you know, coming out of the final days of the Trojan War, you know, going into Syconus, you know what I'm saying? And then, you know, just going before being into the violent storms, they would encounter, you know, the Lotus Eaters. They would go into the mountains. They would run into Polyphemus. They would also, after that, you know, after getting Polyphemus drunk, in that whole span of, you know, telling him his name and being cursed by, and the sight, and Polyphemus praying to his father Poseidon, Poseidon cursing, you know, you see Poseidon actually, you know, cursing Odysseus. And then from there, they run into the Lestragonians, and then they run into Circe, and that's where Circe would tell them about the land of the dead. And I would definitely had end part 1 there, while they're just, again, the ship is just sailing into pure darkness, heading over to the underworld of the land of the dead. Part 1 closed out, and then that's when you would return with part 2. So it'd be the Odyssey part 2, monsters, shadows, and death itself. Odysseus descends into the underworld, where he speaks with the fallen heroes, lost friends, and even his own mother, and the blind prophet Tiresias, who reveals a devastating prophecy that victory will come only through unbearable sacrifice. Emerging from death, Odysseus faces legends that have haunted humanity for thousands of years. He survives the irresistible, and then after that, he survives the irresistible song of the sirens by ordering his crew to bind him to the mast while they sail with wax-filled ears. Dude, that part with the sirens was such a travesty. It was just the acting from Matt Damon being on the mast, you know, just, you know, listen, you know, him yelling and screaming. That was good acting on his end. That was the best acting. That he was one of the best parts of his Matt Damon's acting in the movie. The sour taste that was left in my mouth, was just the fact of, you know, that, and that part was funny too. You see the Asian guy, he takes the wax out of his ear, and he's like, huh. He just busts a nut, and then he just has to jump into the sea, and he has to swim over to the sirens, and he has to lay down cock, and that's not what you're getting, buddy. You're done. You're dead. So what pisses me off is that that scene was so prominent in the story, to where even the curse shows, or how the sirens are built, is if a mortal man hears their song and they live to tell the tale, if they escape, then the sirens have to kill themselves one by one. You missed the whole part of showing that scene. I guess that would have been too graphic, or too not good for modern audiences to show these sirens killing themselves because Odysseus survived the song. So you didn't see that part. We didn't even get a close-up of the sirens, you feel me? Like, it's just like, dude, that part was just a one-off. I'm like, bro, that's one of the best parts of the story. Why would you just rush it like that? And you just have it come off. It just came off of something that wasn't That's my thing. Christopher Nolan made a lot of parts as well that was so detrimental to the story. He made those parts so minuscule in the film, and I'm like, what the freak? That's why I was saying that this could have just definitely this definitely deserved that trilogy treatment. So he could have analyzed and displayed and articulate each important scene, each legendary scene of the Odyssey in the film if he had time to. If he actually cared to give it the treatment that it deserved. You feel me? You did it with the Dark Knight. What you did it with Batman, why not do it for the freaking Odyssey and Odysseus's journey? It's just like, again, I don't know what the main goal was of packing all this into one film, but I wish I could just I wish I could meet Christopher Nolan just to ask him right in his face, why, what was the reason you would make this 10-year epic plus 10 years before that about for the Trojan War? Why did you make all this into one film? Because it's automatically going to make it messy because you don't have enough time to display all the glory that is within Homer's film, Homer's tale. So I would have loved to know why it was decided to make this just one film, but that's just me. So basically emerging so after emerging from death when Odysseus faces the legends that have haunted humanity for thousands of years, he survives the irresistible song of the sirens by ordering his crew to bind into the mast while they sail with wax-filled ears. His ship then enters the narrow passage between the two unstoppable horrors. Scylla, the six-headed monster that tears sailors from the deck, and Charybdis, or Caribit. I don't say how you say that. Caribits, Caribidis, or Cabdis, the living whirlpool capable of swallowing the sea itself. And even when you saw the whirlpool in the film, it just looks so like it didn't. These, bro, when it came to the whirlpool and when it came to Scylla, the six-headed monster, it, even though they made it look mythical, they look so bland and it just looks so weak, bro. I'm like, damn, bro, you could have really had something special here. And again, it just came off just so minuscule. For one moment you see it, and then the next moment it's done already. It's like, all right, let's get it out of here. I'm like, dude, can you let the monsters and the mythological events breathe? Can you give us time to stay in that moment for a while? Can you have the camera look at these monsters and these events in all its glory and show every aspect of the mythological monster in itself? You didn't get much of that. The only time spent with a monster was Polyphemus or Polyphemus is when that was Polyphemus was basically the only monster that got a good amount of time in the Christopher Nolan film. You know what I'm saying? Like that we saw for a good amount. But when it came to Scylla and the whirlpool, you did that scene was just it was just, let's go. It's just quick stuff. You see Scylla grabbing some of his crew, and they get past the whirlpool, and that's it. It's over. So that was ridiculous. So the living whirlpool capable of swallowing the sea itself. Though he escapes, tragedy follows. Hungry and desperate, his exhausted crew slaughters the sacred cattle of Helios, despite every warning that was given to them in regards to not eating Helios's cattle. The gods answer with divine fury, destroying the fleet in an apocalyptic storm. Every companion dies, and even that part, bro, the part where that apocalyptic storm just kills all of his friends, all of his companions, all his soldiers, is as nicely directed as it was. I wish they would have showed more grand scale of what was happening around them. It was very close up of the shot was very close up of all of them just going through the ringer, going through the storm. But I wanted to see not just them, I wanted to see the storm around them. I wanted to see everything. I truly did. And again, I know that Christopher Nolan wanted to make it as real as possible, but nah, buddy, for a mythological epic tale, I want to see the impossible, not the possible. Show me the impossible. Show me the unrealistic the unrealistic tone of mythology, of the gods showing their wrath and their fury, show everything. And again, all the mythological parts, all the larger than life mythos was just brought down a minuscule level due to, Christopher Nolan deeming it, needing it to be grounded and needing it to be realistic. So that part was another miss for me. So Odysseus alone survives. He's drifting through endless oceans. He clings to shattered wreckage before washing ashore on the hidden paradise of Ogygia, or Ogygia. There awaits Calypso. The immortal goddess offers him eternal youth, unimaginable luxury, and everlasting love if he abandons his mortal life forever. For 7 long years, the greatest hero in Greece becomes a prisoner of paradise. Only the gods can finally set him free. And this is where part 3 comes in. That's where part 2 should have ended, with him being with Calypso, being lavished in paradise, and him and her telling him to let go of everything, let go of your mortality. I'll make you immortal. You could be with me forever. And him looking like he's accepting his fate with her, and that he's willing to let go of everything. And then part 2 ends. And then here comes part 3, the Odyssey. Part 3, Odysseus returns. The cunning king lives. This is the ending here, guys. This is the part 3. This is the big finale. Here comes the big load boil. So, released from Calypso's island, Odysseus endures Poseidon's final act of vengeance before reaching the kingdom of the Phaeacians. Reaching the kingdom of the Phaeacians, who hear the incredible tale of his impossible journey and finally carry him home to Ithaca. And that was such a missed part as well. The Phaeacians, or if I'm saying it right, the Phaeacians, or however you say it, when the part in the story where Odysseus is telling them about the tale and he's crying, you know what I'm saying, and dude, that part would have been so epic to see. And then they realize, oh man, he's Odysseus, and then they finally help him get home to Ithaca. But while his impossible journey and the incredible tale of him finally overcoming all the trials and tribulations of the god, mostly Poseidon, and he finally makes it home to Ithaca. But home has become another battlefield as well. Believing their king long dead, more than 100 ruthless suitors have invaded his palace, consuming his wealth, while competing to marry Penelope and seize the throne. Meanwhile, Telemachus has grown into a young warrior, searching for the father he barely remembers. And disguised by Athena, at least it would have been great to see this, to show the part where Athena turns him into, an old beggar. You know what I'm saying? We can't even get that. You couldn't just have Zendaya could have done hippity hippity hoo and just make Matt Damon look old as freak. I'm like, guys, it was cringe. I'm like, this is all Matt Damon did. This is all Matt Damon did. Yes, yes, Odysseus is still alive. I would have been like, dude, if I had a brain and I was in that time, I'd have been like, Odysseus, is that you? I'm like, bro, you just got a hood over your head, my guy. Like, get it off. Like, dude, at least attempt to make this man transform. Just make him old. CGI this guy. Just have Zendaya do a spell on this guy. It's funny because in this movie, the magic is the magic is apparent. So you showed Circe turning Odysseus's men into pigs, Christopher, but you couldn't show Zendaya turning Matt Damon into an old beggar. Make that make sense. So the scene could have been more digestible, more believable, and more immersible, instead of Matt Damon just putting a hood over his head. They'll never know it's me. Get the freak out of here, dude. And so disguised by Athena, and continuing on my part 3, okay? This is it, guys. This is the big finale, yeah. So, disguised by Athena as an aging beggar, Odysseus secretly walks through his own kingdom, witnessing the corruption of the palace and discovering who has remained loyal. Then comes the challenge. Penelope declares she will marry only the man capable of stringing Odysseus's legendary bow and firing an arrow through 12 axe heads. None can do it. The mysterious beggar steps forward. He strings the bow effortlessly. Silence falls across the hall. The disguise vanishes. It would have been cool to see the disguise just irradiate off of him, and then you just see his face show slowly but surely turn into Odysseus, from old beggar to the cunning king. And then lo and behold, the true king of Ithaca has returned. What follows is one of the most iconic climaxes in literature. Can you hear that, bro? Can you hear the story, the part 3 of what me and Mr. Chad GBT came with? What follows is one of the most climactic, epic things in literature ever told, as Odysseus and Telemachus wage a desperate battle against the suitors. So Telemachus and Odysseus, they're just going at it with the suitors. They're killing them one by one, reclaiming. So they go against the suitors with a little bit of help of other allies and Athena as well, reclaiming their kingdom in an unforgettable final stand. After years of war, loss, temptation, grief, and unimaginable endurance, Odysseus is finally reunited with Penelope. And you really feel that, bro, proving that the greatest victory was never the conquest of Troy, but the journey home. A sweeping cinematic saga of gods and monsters, of destiny and defiance, of hope that refuses to die, all in the name of love and finding your way back home. The Odyssey is more than an adventure, man. It is the story that inspired nearly every great fantasy epic that followed suit. A timeless tale of courage, sacrifice, perseverance, family, and the unbreakable will to find one's way back home. Scene. That's it. The trilogy's over. Now, would have that been so hard to do, Christopher? Would that have been so hard to do, Universal Pictures? You tell me. No, it wasn't. So, my question is, why was this not done? Why was this not thought of? Why force and stuff all of this epic literature, all of these epic mythological events in the story, all of these epic characters, all of the gods, the council, the punishment, the trials, the tribulations, the journeys, the sea, the going of the sea, the monsters? Why fit all of this? Why shoot yourself in the foot and try to fit all of this into one film? Is it ego? Disrespect? Vanity? A quick buck? Or is it that I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say, man. It just blows me away. It blows me away, but hey, the Odyssey has made 425 million so far in the first week and a half. So it's got to be epic because it's making a lot of money. Yeah, sure. We'll go with that one. Yeah. But it could have made a lot more money if you told it the right way, right? We're talking billions of dollars if you made a freaking trilogy and showed respect to Homer's epic tale. But hey, who am I? I'm just a black guy on YouTube that, you know what I'm saying, that's trying to speak up for the people of Greece, try to uphold integrity and respect from one artist to another. You feel me? Something that I thought Christopher Nolan had or still had, but no longer has now. He has shown me, Christopher Nolan has shown his true colors. Yeah, And now that he's living in LA, I guess he's a LA boy. Christopher Nolan's a LA boy, so now he's feeling like a LA scumbag. And this is how you treat one of the greatest, storytellers of all time in Homer's work, The Odyssey. At this point, this movie will truly be known as Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. And you're damn right about that, because it's not Homer's Odyssey, it's Christopher Nolan's Odyssey. To the point to where even the person's translation, Emily Wilson, that you depicted your script upon, even she is not thoroughly pleased with your film, Christopher. And we all see why. We all know why. Anyone who loves this film or likes this movie, congratulations. Merry Christmas, okay? I'm happy for you. But can you just imagine if Christopher Nolan did the right thing, accurately, mythologically, trilogy-y, and made this a trilogy, and he made all the right decisions. He displayed all the right events from the story. He casted all the right people for these roles that not only looked like them, but could have brought a performance for the ages. If everything was done to perfection, can you imagine the epic trilogy that we could have gotten and that we should have gotten? And I'll leave it at that, man. Damn, dude, I've done this for been an hour and 17 minutes, sir. Again, the movie's not terrible. The movie's not shit. But to me, it's just Christopher Nolan's worst film that he's ever done. And it all comes down to respect, integrity, accuracy, and just the laws to be held when it comes to introducing someone's work through an adaptation, and being such a prestigious actor, and being such a prestigious filmmaker that Christopher Nolan is, you would think that he would handle the story with love and care, that he would handle this the right way. But instead, I don't know what happened, and he decided to make all the wrong decisions for such an epic tale. But hey, it's making money, right? That's all that matters. Rotten Tomatoes, 94%. That's all that matters. I guess so. And in this day and age, if that's all that matters for movies, bro, we are truly effed. We're truly screwed. Well, at least we have all the old movies to go back to, right? But yeah, guys, this is Cassidy Stirrup here, and this was my video presentation on why the Odyssey deserved better, and why the Odyssey deserved a trilogy. If you guys are new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe for your boy if you enjoyed this long, sorrowful, epic, mythological journey with me. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for being here. And if you made it this far, hey man, I'm just saying, if you made it this far, just like, share, comment, and subscribe, bro. Please. And let me know in the comment section down below. Did the Odyssey deserve better? Did the Odyssey deserve a trilogy? Are you a huge fan of the original story from Homer? What would you have done if you were in Christopher Nolan's position? Do you think the movie is perfect the way it is? Do you think this movie showed the respect to Homer's Odyssey that it deserved? Let me know in the comment section down below. And please, let's be mature about it. If you love the movie, great. If you hate the movie, good on you. If you thought the movie was okay, I appreciate you. Let's all be grown, mature beggars in the comment section, and let's have a discussion. But I have one question for you all. Where's my dad? Daddy wasn't there to change my underwear, to take me to the fair. Odysseus isn't there. All right, y'all. Peace.